أعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Saya punya video macam stuck, tak bergerak lah. Hopefully suara boleh dengar. Sebab saya tengok kat video saya macam frozen lah situ. Okay, untuk makluman, sepatutnya kelas ni bukan saya yang buat lah. Sepatutnya hari ni lah, tapi sebabkan hari Khamis selepas okay, lupa. Okay, this class supposed not me conducting this class today. Unfortunately, today Saturday, Thursday evening, the lecturer told me that he cannot do because his father is not well, so he has to take care of his father during the weekend. So because our last minute change, I have to take over his place lah. So we do swap class lah. Okay, so I hope that's not a big deal. So I think for today, what I will be like in terms of the order looks like a big jump, but it's not necessarily a big jump. Looks like a big jump, but actually it's not. So today I would like to discuss about interview and observations. As you can see in the slide from my spectrum. Let me see, can I get my spectrum running? Okay. Let me open my spectrum first. So as you can see, I hope you have all the textbook. If you don't have, let me know so I can give you again the textbook. So wait a minute, let me sign off that. Okay, wait a minute. Let me show you my screen. Okay. 7. Okay. So before that, please record your own attendance. Let me check again. So if you go to your spectrum, you should see. I apologize for the messy. I don't like this. Okay, a bit messy. Our spectrums with here and there. So for the class, you should see my slide under. Checking where is my slide again. You should see, if you are IMX, you should see topic 6. Topic 6. If you are in this one, I don't share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay, if you are, so if you can see my screen. Okay, things look like okay. Right. So if you are in IMX, this should be our lessons today. Today we got two topics actually. So I combine into one sessions lah. Okay. So if you are in IMX, that's IMX. If you are in IVX, it should be same places in my slide as well. Perhaps okay, so this is the same. I will attach with the new material for today, which is a new article in terms of online material. How we are going to do. What are the steps suggested if you are using online material as your data, sources of data lah. Okay, if you remember, I'll share you again the textbook. Here is textbook. Textbook. Let's see. So this. Textbooks here. I hope you all can see. I hope you have seen the book. Is it? Teaching. This one. So if you look at this book, okay, if you so I'm sharing my textbook with you. If you don't have, let me know. I can send to you. You can ask from your friend as well. Also can. So it's also, this is a bit old because it's 5th edition and 2009. Like I said in this first or second meeting, I said nowadays we have more than a lot of materials, a lot of data now you can obtain from online materials. Such as podcasts, such as documentaries online. You can get a lot of material. So you can use that as your sources of data, either your main source of data or supplementary or secondary data. So if you look at when you conduct your research, when you're collecting data, you should get something like this. Either you have primary data or secondary data, or maybe I should show. If you look at this book, I like this idea suggested by this book by the author. Call it Onion, Research Onion. Is it Research Onion? Onion. Oh, tak ada. Is it? Oh yeah, there is. Okay, I like the idea by this author, Research Onion here. So dia kata macam ni, dia say that okay, dia kata apa? If you wrote this one, however, dia kata starting from this line, however, thought on this question. Okay, so let me highlight this slide, this point. Oh, tak boleh. So, aku baca pada atas lah kot. Much of this book concerned with the way in which you collect data to answer your research questions. Okay. You are not unusual if you begin thinking about your research by considering whether you should, for example, administer a questionnaire or conduct an interview. So it's not unusual when you start thinking about collecting data. I mean, start doing your thesis. You should be thinking about are you going to get questionnaire or interviewer? So this is the first thing you should be thinking when you conduct your study or research. Should I get questionnaire or interviews? Okay. However, dia kata sini, thought on these questions belong the center of the research onion, by which means we have chosen to depict issues. Okay, saya baca kejap. I read this one line by line. It's in the which means we have chosen. Okay, which means we have chosen to depict the issues underlying the choice of data collection techniques and analysis procedure in figure 4.1. Before coming to central point, we agree that there are important layers of onion that we need to peel away. So these are the I like to, before we go there, and I think it is this idea of research onion I like. I like this idea of research onion. So what is research onion? Is somewhere here. 4.1. Yeah, this one. This one. This book. It's like layer upon layer upon layers. Lebih kurang. As you can see, this is by the authors themselves, Saunders, Lewis, Thornhill, and the research onion. I think that this term is getting more popular nowadays, because it is practical. In terms of practicality, it is good. What this author suggests is that usually when we do a study, we think about beginning of the study, we're thinking about whether we should we want to do an interview or questionnaire. This is somewhere here actually. There's data collection is somewhere inside. It's already inside the onion. So deep ahead. Whereas before we should think about this, there are other things that we should be thinking as well. So roughly, what does this onion tells you is that some sort of like how you want to approach your study or your research. So start. This author suggests that we should start at the outer, the most, call it the most outside. We call it the most exposed layer, which is this one. Positivism, realism, interpretivism, pragmatism. So these are we call it philosophy. Roughly, this is the philosophy of research. This is chapter 4. So chapter 4 is about research philosophies and approach. How we are going to conduct this research. This topic will be covered by Dr. Alwani, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe in week 5 or 6. I will touch this angle. What this philosophy and approaches means here in this context of research. Okay. At the outside of the research, we should see something like this: positivism, realism, interpretivism. Okay. Roughly, this one will tell you the idea of interpretism, realism, and positivism is closely linked with what kind of data collection you are doing. Okay. So, for example, positivism, so positivism means that can I tell positivism? So positivism is usually linked with positivism is usually linked with survey, whereas if looking at interpretivism is usually looking at interview or observations. So basically, roughly, I'm not going to discuss this much today. So positivism usually more towards quantitative side. It could be a questionnaire. It could be secondary data. In terms of most likely, it goes under a questionnaire, or it could be secondary data, mostly quantitative data, and Yeah, these are the two popular sources of data. Unless you are from the science, pure science, it could be experiment. So experiment could be will fall under category of positivism. Questionnaire will be fall under positivism. Qualitative secondary data will fall under positivism, whereas I give two clear-cut spectrum. It is always a spectrum, like I said last 2 weeks before this. When we talk about research, it's not binary. It's not yes or no. It's always in between. Remember when I told you about the first chapter about is it about basic research? I mean, if you look at this one, basic research. Remember I said about the first topic, this one. This one. So it is always like this one. The first chapter. It is always like a spectrum. Spectrum means the not necessarily yes or no It could be in between. It could be half basic, 50-50. Basic and applied. It could be more towards basic, less about applied, or it could be more towards applied and less about basic. So similarly, if you go to this concept of onion, research onion, okay, you will see that these are the ideas suggested by this author of the book. So you must understand what are the philosophy that you are going to take. So let's say okay, what can you say about interpretivism? Interpretism is something like this. Let's say why it is connected to observations and interview. It depends because this one is it depends on how you interpret your data. So this we call it interpretivism. So later on, when you have read a lot of research article or maybe thesis, maybe you can see that there are basically two school of thoughts. Let me see. Can I find anything from here or not? Okay, normative. Can I get anything about normative? Oh, tak ada. It's not there. Is there anything about judgment? Judgment. Let me see. Is there anything? Okay. Only two. Value judgment. Okay. Because this is paradigms. This still fall under philosophy, judgment. So okay. Coming back, okay, not much discussion here about value judgment. Okay, what I mean by value judgment is this. If you can see what the authors is talking about. This one. For example, sini apa maksud dia value judgment. So okay, kita baca from top of the paragraph. A statement of values may be of use both to you as the researcher. Okay, statement of values may be of use both to you as the researcher and those parties with whom you have conducted your research. Okay, because when you write your work, your piece of work, so the value of the statement is for you and your audience basically. So the use to you would be a result of you being honest with yourself about what your values are, for example. So that means you can see that when you have read some idea of research article, you can see that in some journal, they will accept your idea if you put forward your call it value judgment. This example, heightening awareness of value judgment you are making in drawing conclusions of data. That means in some journals, they don't mind if you offer your value judgment. Value judgment means it is for meaning you see something happen in one of the organization, for example, again, and you see what happened is good. You express out loud lah. That means there are value judgment. It is something's good happening in this organization. For example, let's say you examine one particular organization, you find that this organization follow some rules. In your opinion, this rule is good. So this is called value judgment. So that's how one way to portray or convey your study. It means you point to the audience, the editorial, to the examiner that this company is doing particular, let's say, this particular exercise, let's say exercise A, for example, and then based on what the theory surrounding this particular exercise, apa sajalah whatever exercise you're interested in, it could be reciting doa before you start your work, anything to do lah. So let's say simple idea lah. For example, you examine one organization, and let's say you find that every morning when they start working, before they start working, they will do some prayers, maybe recite some Fatiha or anything, spend maybe about 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes may be too long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes to pray, to offer your doa. Then when you write your thesis, there are two ways to do your thesis. That's why you have like just now we have positivism and interpretivism. So I'll give you one example. Let's say you are examining one particular organizations, and this particular organizations, one thing they did every morning before they start working, they do something like reciting Fatiha in group, not on your own, in group. Maybe that's what you're doing. So when you do your study, you observe this particular activity, and you use some your theory to relate what is the meaning of this activity, and then you offer your value judgment. So this is what we call value judgment. You can say that you say this is moral or whatever lah. That means there is some value. Something value there. Value means something is good or bad, or useful or not useful, something like that. So that's one way to do lah. We call that value judgment. But however, there are some journals who don't like that idea. Some journals don't like that idea. So depends on a journal. So similarly depends on to your supervisor juga or examiner juga. Sometimes the examiner the journal, the editor don't like the idea. Sometimes the editor will just want to see what's happening and what are other, what can you call this lah, for example, you see this particular organization is, before they start working, they recite Fatihah or Surah Yasin, whatever lah, spend a few minutes to in a group to say a prayer, then you just do some research about, support with some theory and say this company is practice this. You give it a theory, whatever lah. That's it. You don't offer anything whether it's good or bad lah, something like that lah. So there's two way to do research lah. So meaning you analyze something happen and then you say this is what happening. So you relate with some theories lah with regard to organization, with regard to some maybe psychology's idea, with regard to maybe a management idea. Depends on what angle you want to do. It could be one particular angle, it could be multidisciplinary. So you maybe just say this company is practicing some kind of disease. This is what you observe, and then you connect that particular observation with some theories lah. So support with some theory. So that's it. You stop there. So there's no value judgment lah. So when what we call value judgment here, you offer conclusions on data. So you offer is good or bad lah. So these are one of the ways to do research. So that's how it here. When you see here onion, it goes here. Onion. Okay, where are you? Okay, here. So it goes back to here. Search onion here. So usually when you call it interpretivism, it goes that way. So you goes interpretism because either you interpret what's happening and you give value or not give value. This calls under interpretism lah. So what is the difference between positivism and interpretivism is that this interpretism is based on the researcher interpretation. Tinggal lagi when you offer your conclusions, it could be no value judgment, or you have offer value judgment. But in positivism, usually what happens is that there's not much interpretism. There's not much what we call it. Interpretation of your data. Positivism, mainly positivism is dealing with questionnaire and secondary data. Because the idea of positivism is that whatever you get from your data, whatever you get from data is what tells you the meaning of the what happened in the organization. For example, how can I say this way? There are huge difference between positivism and interpretivism, because interpretivism, you collect data and you analyze, let's say interview, and you interpret based on your theory that you have lah, some principles that you have when you come to conclusion of your data lah. Whereas in positivism, the data that you have, usually confirm what you have at the back of your theory. So basically, in positivism, uh, there is not much in terms of I'm not saying that in positivism that there is no element of interpretation. There is some element of interpretation in positivism. The only difference is that the level of interpretation is not very deep. It's not very deep. Mainly because when you are collecting questionnaire, for example, you are collecting, let's say, that secondary data. Okay. Uh, Almost maybe half of the interpretation has been concluded. For example, let's say you're collecting data of, let's say, inflation data. Let's say you're doing some economics data. Let's say inflation, or maybe unemployment, for example. So, or maybe quality of life, for example. That data has been given to you. So that means there's not much space for you to argue what is the meaning of inflation, what is the meaning of unemployment, how should you measure inflation, how should you measure quality of life, how should you measure work-life balance, for example. So you directly take it from the data that was given to you. So basically, that's the difference. The we call it obvious difference between positivism and interpretivism lah. Something like this. So these are the things that you should be thinking when do your research later on, because it will affect your data collection. That means if you want to explore about the data, your study is more about answering why question. Why? So if why is your main idea or main aims of your thesis or your study, then your approach should be interpretivism and not positivism. I'm not saying that 100% must be interpretivism. So like it should be heavy on top in terms of interpretivism lah. If your study is more towards getting heavy towards answering the question of why something happened, why people behave this way, why people, for example, why young people are more, the younger generations are more looking forward in terms of work-life balance, for example, compared to the older generations. So this one almost true for every country. So if you want to answer that question, the approach should be interpretivism and not positivism. So it relates to your study. So that's why it is very important for you to understand the context between your research questions and your data collections. So basically what this onion is telling you is that you should be thinking about your RQ, research question, what you want to achieve, and what data that suits your suitable with your objective. So if your objective is more towards what is happening, or more towards number, how many people are concerned about this thing, how many people support this idea A and not support idea B, if that is what you want to see, then the better way to do is from positivism angle. Once you choose the positivism angle, then you follow that accordingly. So but if you want to know why A is happening, why A is more dominant than B, for example, then the better way to conduct your study is not from positivism angle, but it's more towards interpretivism lah. So that means it will goes back to it will lead what is your data collection will do. It will have to follow accordingly lah. So if you are doing positivism, that means you are saying that your data will give you what you want. That means the data is telling you that means that there's not much space for you to interpret the data. So the data is telling you this is happening and you interpret that way. Whereas in interpretivism, the data gives you something, but you have to interpret your own. Heavy towards your own interpretation. Whereas the positivism, your interpretation, your input in terms of interpretation of data is quite limited. Not quite. It's exactly limited compared to interpretism lah. So when you have that kind of idea, then so we don't fall trap between the method lah. So many students will come ask the supervisor, which one's better? Should I do questionnaire? Should I do interview? Should I do should I collect data from podcast? Should I get data from Facebook? So it basically depends. Depends on RQ. So your research question will be related to your philosophy here, the so-called philosophy. So when you talk about positivism and interpretism, it's about the philosophy of your study. And then once you roughly understand or want to know, you have decided your philosophy of study is it going to be positivism or interpretivism. So I need to say that if you want to open more interpretation on your own, that will be interpretivism. It means it will be more but be careful. I have to be careful. I have to be honest with you. If you are doing interpretivism, I would say that the work will be a lot more. The burden of proving your idea, of proving your statement or argument could be harder in terms of if your philosophy is this one. I mean to say, if your objective question is why A is more dominant than B, for example, and to prove that is quite challenging in terms of the burden of proof. That be quite challenging so that's why most studies at PhD level, usually many students will prefer to use positivism, heavy towards positivism. Does not mean that it's not less interpretation does not happen, but mostly positivism, meaning to say you are mostly doing questionnaire. Yes, maybe doing some interview, but your interview is not much about interpretation, but more to confirm what you have in your mind, basically. So basically, this is what research method is all about. I mean, basically, if people say that is what research method is about, it is almost correct. Start with philosophy, and then it will influence your approach, affect your what kind of approach that you want to do, and then your strategies. So approach could be deductive and it could be inductive. So deductive means that from the data that you have, deductive, you get some theories. Whereas inductive, wait, which one is the first one? Wait, deductive first. Deductive means that from the data that you have, you confirm what the theory means. Whereas inductive means you collect the data, you explore the theory lah. So basically, positivism and deductive is very closely related. So positivism, mostly the data they have, you want to confirm what the data tells you. Basically, that's what positivism. You want to confirm what the data, what people are saying. Maybe there is some statement saying that A is more dominant than B, for example. Let's say A is more popular than B. So you want to confirm that idea, positivism. So that becomes deductive. So you collect the data, you confirm what are the theories. Whereas interpretation are related with inductive. So meaning to say that you have you want to the question will be, if positivism want to confirm whether A is more dominant than is more dominant than B, or A is stronger than B. This is positivism. If your question is asking question why A is stronger than B, or why A is stronger, for example, then it becomes inductive. That means you offer the theory why A is bigger than B, for example. I give you some general idea and then it goes to layer number 3, what we call strategies. What are the strategies that you are going to use? So positivism mostly about experiment and survey, or case study positivism. Whereas in terms of interpretivism, mostly with regard to ethnography. There are a lot of terminologies here. I don't want to confuse you with a lot of terminologies yet. Although soon you have to learn about this terminology, positivism, a lot of bombastic words kat sini. I don't want you to confuse that yet. But basically, what this onion is telling you that roughly there are two school of thoughts positivism and interpretivism. So with positivism, we'll have like survey, experiment, whereas interpretism could be ethnography, grounded theory. So you will see a lot of, when you do a research, when you read a lot of material in terms of research method, you will hear a lot of grounded theory. So grounded theory is not theory of survey, theory of experiment, or what. Grounded theory is explaining to you what or how to approach qualitative study, basically. Grounded theory basically used in qualitative study, qualitative method. How we are going to explore your qualitative methods. It goes under grounded theory Okay. So a lot of we call it terminology here. So perhaps today maybe should expose you about at least in terms of philosophy, there are positivism, and there are the opposite side is interpret. And then from there you have survey, experiment, and ethnography. Basically, you are the ethnography is usually you want to explore more towards social science. Of course, already social science, but they are more towards understanding human behavior. Okay. This ethnography is not about how many people or how many percentage people doing this, or which one is more popular, which one is more common. It's not like that. It's not what the reason or the purpose of ethnography. Ethnography will the reason for the aims of ethnography is asking question why people are doing this and not that. Why people are doing A and not B, for example. That's basically ethnography in social science. So I've divert a lot here because this will affect your directions of your study. So be careful of that lah. So this because, like I said, if you look at this textbook, this is right at the beginning. This is chapter 4. We look at the table of content. So this is like you got to be careful about this. Otherwise, you will have some problem later on if you don't take this seriously. For example, if you look at the table of content, okay, if you look at what table of content should be page number what? Number 10. Okay, correct. Okay, if you look at here, okay, here. So we go to bigger topic lah. So you got to understand that this are the early part of your thesis. The philosophy. Philosophy is chapter 4. In access, chapter 6. It's the beginning side and beginning part of your study. So and samples. 4, 6, 7. This is all the call it approach. Very important here because it affect your what or who you are going to approach. So this is very important to decide. So chapter 4 will influence your number 6, access and research ethics. So these are all the very important process in research. Like I showed the beginning part. Remember the circle. The process of research is what? Starting with identifying the problem until you produce the report. So always a circle like that. You cannot jump one step ahead. So usually this one you have to decide early. Decide as early as possible in terms of approach and access. Who basically what I'm trying to suggest you that you must try to decide now who will be your informant. Who will be your informant? Will it be primary data here? Primary data. Will it be primary data or will it be secondary data? So you have to try to this one. Whether you want to do primary data or secondary data, primary data or secondary data. So it's very important for you to decide. I know it's difficult to decide now, but try to figure out at least rough idea. At least rough idea. At least by this end of semester 1, you already figure out who will most likely be my source, become my sources of data. Later I will show you how you're going to use other alternative besides the normal one, the usual one, interview, questionnaire, survey. There are other alternative besides that, besides questionnaire, besides interview, besides observations. There are other alternative. What we call it, online data. So with that, let's start with lama pula introduction ni, tak apalah. At least important for you to understand the philosophy of or the research philosophy. so that you know that in research you have to back and forth, belakang depan belakang. Sebab kadang-kadang you think that you can get you at the beginning maybe you can think that you can get access this one, chapter 6, access. You think that maybe you can get somebody to give you some information, but later on you find that it is not. The data is not available, or maybe the person has resigned, it's not working there anymore, or maybe it's difficult to get data. Then you have to find out is there any way to get data. Can I get data from other sources? Can I get data from third party? Can I get data from social media? Possible or not? Something like that. So there's with regard to social media, who's getting more and more popular nowadays, so you should not discount, you should not rule out social media as your sources of data. So that's why I'll try today give you some idea what to do if social media could be your main sources of data, then what's your strategy. Okay, so I cannot do a lot of things, because we look at here, primary data through observations already one chapter, and interview is already another chapter, so I do 2 chapters altogether. So to combine 2 chapters in one session is impossible, but I try to give you some ideas what are the steps that you should do. Say new one, I don't remember. So maybe I can hopefully there's not much different. Okay lah, boleh lah. Not bad. Hopefully it's still good. Okay. As you can see from this chapter, so I use a lot of this textbook. So I hope you all refer to this book. I'm not saying that this book is the only one that is can also refer to other book, but this one I like the way how the author set the idea. So if you can see from here, you have data, primary data observations, primary data group interviews. Okay, so observation one way, primary data, and then primary data of semi-structure group interviews or questionnaire. So the question is, what is primary data? What is primary data? What define primary data? So so primary data basically the data that you collect on your own. So basically primary data you can define as data that you collect on your own, which means you have full control of who will give you data and what kind of question that you will want to ask. That's primary data. Compared to secondary data, like this one. Secondary data is a data that's already available to you, where you cannot change what kind of question you want to ask. So for example, social media data, that is a secondary data. Although the data is not yet processed, maybe there are a lot of comments. You look at posting in Facebook, you look at posting in TikTok, posting in whatever social media you have about certain issue, whatever issue that it is. It could be online bully, could be work-life balance, could be inequality of wealth, could be anything in terms of issues that are causing problem nowadays, and you search that issue in social media, for sure you get some comments, feedbacks, YouTube videos, posting semua tu lah. So that is considered secondary data, because the data you cannot you don't have any control. That is secondary data. just like the government or report lah, or report from Bank Negara, or report from uh, any printed data lah, or either online or offline, doesn't matter. As long as you cannot control of how the data is collected, that's, you can call it secondary data lah. So that's of course secondary data has some advantage, and primary data also have some advantage lah. For one of the big reason why primary data is advantage is that you have control of what to ask question. For example, this one, okay? So let's say interview. Why because you got to remember, interview also, interview for example kan, interview is not necessarily you go to see that person, and you ask that person, you make arrangement, make appointment, maybe see in person, maybe in interviews using using what we call it, Google Meet or Skype or any other online material, online method. This one is quite old. Tak ada yang baru ke? Let me check. New. Update. Lama dah update tu. That's 2020. Let me check. Yeah, I should update that one because now I saw something about podcast, social media data. I think it's getting more and more useful, social media data. Let me see, is this one the new one? Let me check. Topic number 6. Okay, this one. Is it new one? I think macam lama lah. This one. Cantik sikit. This one quite better. This one better lah. I think I like this one better lah. Okay lah, I'll use this one lah. It's the old one. The old one is better. Okay lah, I'll take this one lah. Okay. Although it's old, but I think this one's better. Okay, so roughly interview is about I think it's too many data lah. I think I take the new one lah. 43 slides too many. Tak cukup ni, one hour tak cukup. It's too many. I'll just take the shorter one maybe. 25 is better. I think it's one summary of this 45 lah. Okay. See, right. Okay. So basically, I don't have to. Okay. Right. Before we go there, qualitative research. Basically, qualitative research. Basically, we have that's the most famous. I'm talking about interviews ni. There are other interviews which podcast. As you can, like I said just now, nowadays you can see a lot of podcasts. Almost everything. If you familiar with podcasts nowadays, I can see that maybe in past 2 or 3 years, not that many, but nowadays podcast is getting more and more influential in almost every area, sports, politics, entertainment, financial, anything about podcast. There was somebody who was doing podcast lah, kan? In Malaysia, maybe in politics, maybe Azian Madun. In overseas, there are about podcasts about sports. So podcast will be
some good source of data lah as your way how you interpret. It goes back to what we were talking just now. This one, onion. So this is where the point very important. So the research onion is very important for you to understand. Tak ada. Why? Okay, again. Control F. Onion. So this part for me, this is where you have to think through about your that's why if you look at this book, it said that you must think first about, usually people are thinking about the beginning, which is for me is common lah, which is true lah. So because kita start from data dulu, we start from data first and we work backward lah. You see, this is what I think have to work both sides lah. Because although you think that you want to answer question about why question, not what question in positivism, but more towards why question in interpretivism, but you must also understand whether your data can support. So if your data cannot support the why question using interpretivism philosophy, then you cannot use interpretivism. Maybe you have to use positivism. So the question will not be why, a lot of why, but a lot of what happened. And it's not that you cannot say why, there's no why in here, but the why is very limited in why questions. In positivism, the why questions limited, more towards what happened, what are the evidence, okay? Whereas in interpretism, it's more towards why this thing happened, why A is bigger than B, but not much on what how many people like A or how many people like B, for example. That's the idea. So goes back to our slide here. So okay, let me check. Okay, I have to charge my battery. Battery is getting. It's my charger. Let me charge. Okay. Okay. Hopefully the line is okay, because the line sometimes getting cut off. So I really apologize to you all, because I thought I want to see at least some of you in person. Unfortunately, I was not able. I just came back from my hometown last night, so it's too tired to go to office. Okay, never mind. Hopefully this one will be also useful. Okay, so you have one-to-one group. So I'll give you a rough idea. So I combine these two. I combine these two subjects together. If you look at my UM spectrum, where is my UM spectrum? Oh, why? Where's my UM spectrum? It's not there. It's YouTube. Oh yeah, it's AI. Don't forget AI. AI can help you a lot, but be careful juga lah. AI can be also exaggeration. AI can be also telling you things that's not true. Where is my spectrum? Hilang lah. It's gone. Oh, here. Okay. So that's the reason why I combine interview and observations. They are closely related in terms of the analysis of data. The analysis of data between interview and observations is almost similar, not much difference. Similarly, if you're collecting data from social media, when I talk about social media, I'm talking about posting social media, about the content of posting, about the comments, posting and comment. What are the um, nature of posting and comments in some particular issue lah? Because if you notice, uh, social media is getting more influential nowadays, especially with regard to politics. You can see how politicians make use of social media. Could be YouTube, could be Facebook, whatever lah, in order to persuade people to support the idea. Whatever idea they have lah. The idea could be completely wrong, or could be fully completely right lah. Could be half true. But social media, you cannot ignore nowadays. It's getting more and more influential. It's whether it's true or false lah. It's whether going to with this right story, the correct version of story, or the lies lah. It could be lies, it could be true. That's how people influence decision from online material, from social media. So I think you should consider about social media as sources of data lah. So when we say about social media, it could be postings, it could be comments, comment with regard to any issue lah, Israel, Gaza, Palestine, whatever. Okay, so now roughly lah, if I want to go to the detail, it'll be too long. But roughly, interview we have one-to-one or group lah. So one-to-one meaning you yourself and the informer, or in a group. So this one can be in nowadays we have Google Meet, we have Skype. No, Skype not anymore. Maybe you have Google Meet, maybe you have Zoom. Not necessarily in person, because the person could be far away, or maybe because of security reason, possible juga. Somebody who is in danger, so you cannot talk to you directly, have to use online, possible. Okay, so that's interview. It could be observations. This is a qualitative method lah. I'm talking about qualitative method. Observations. I would like to show you why. I want to share with you why I show this slide. Why I show you this slide just now. Is it this one? Okay, if you notice, this is my slide at IMAX. Only IMAX student can see this. You can see this interviews. This is a book. Stina Kubali, Sven Brinkman. I'm not so sure whether they are still alive or not. If you look at this, we notice this is the book interviews. It's quite old, 2009. I'm sure somebody has been writing updates or whatever. So if you look at this interview, this cover page, this book, if you see thoroughly, you should be able to see this picture. There are two picture. There are two sides of the story lah. This picture, there are two sides of the story. What are the two sides of the story? If you look at the yellow color, you look only at yellow color. Yellow color. If you look at yellow color, if yellow is your subject matter, that means you have to ignore the blue color. You have to ignore the blue color. You only focus on the yellow color. So if you are focusing on the yellow color, what you see is only yellow, not the blue one. Which means if you focusing on yellow, you will see a shape of like apa ni? I don't know what it is. Like a shape of a structure, structure of building, whatever lah. So if you're focusing on yellow only, you're ignoring the blue. However, if you're ignoring the yellow, but you're focusing on the blue color, you don't see the structure of this, like a bowl or whatever, like a pillar, whatever this one, but you see a picture of two person side by side. This is one human, this one other human. Two humans facing each other. So that means same picture, two story. Story number one, you look at the structure, or story number two, you look at two humans facing each other. So that's what it means by here interview. Interpretivism lah, basically. So it means that when you get some data, whatever data you can get, there possibly two side of story. Two side of the story. It could be the yellow one, it could be the blue one. The yellow is the structure, the blue is the human. So basically, that's why we call it qualitative. Because qualitative means that's not the conclusion or how you interpret is subjective, depending on who is doing the interpretation. So if a person A doing interpretation, he may see yellow color. If person B do the interpretation, same thing, same material, he may see not the yellow but the blue one. So his interpretation or her interpretation will be totally different from A. Okay, so that's why call it qualitative lah. But quantitative, no. Cannot say if quantitative say that is significant, it is significant. You cannot say it's not significant. So there's no such thing as there's even quantitative quantitative approach. There's no such thing as this idea or this idea like this one. There's one yellow, there's one blue. It cannot be. There's quantitative methods of thinking. So that's why quantitative like a survey falls under positivism, because there's no such thing as different opinion. The opinion is always one that is more dominant in terms of proving certain arguments. Whereas in qualitative, there could be two arguments, and then those two arguments could equally right. There's nothing wrong with the other argument. Okay, so that's observations. So observations basically watching researching. So maybe perhaps I will maybe this is a good time for me to promote my own article juga lah. So I do observations here. One of my article is about observations. I use hearing and seeing lah. This one, hearing and seeing as my data lah. Okay, so if you maybe perhaps I should show my maybe later lah kot maybe later tak sempat nanti but you can find my article about hearing and seeing. It's about seeing observations. Sempat nanti saya tunjuk just show you what are the observations lah. So maybe can be also written documents possible. It could be manuscripts. Okay, it could be anything that's written, books, newspaper article, written document, could also postings. Maybe not posting maybe could contain a lot of video. Maybe could be comments, written document juga. So basically this can fall under qualitative juga lah. Comment, because when you see comment you have to, for example, the observation when you observe certain shops, certain restaurants, for example. In my case, I observe restaurants. I observe what the decorations of the restaurants, what the restaurants The decorations of the restaurants can tell you. The environment of restaurants can tell you about the halal, about the food is halal or not. Basically, that's the idea. So when you see my article there, I say that my idea is that what you see surrounding you can influence the surrounding area, the surrounding the environment of the restaurants can influence your decision whether you want to go to eat at the restaurants or not lah, for example. Basically, I'm talking about context in Malaysia. In overseas could be different story lah. At least in within Malaysia lah. Okay, so that's observations. With written documents sama juga. When you see postings, comments, you have to decide. You have to interpret. That's what we call it qualitative. Qualitative is interpretation, basically. So when you see comments on YouTube, comment Facebook, a lot of comments, for example, 1,000 comments. So you have to decide. Basically, this is what AI is doing. What AI is doing is that AI will browse all comments about certain things, Gaza, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, anything lah, Trump, whatever. AI will browse every possible documents from the internet, and it will decide good, bad, neutral. At least three category lah. Good, bad, neutral. Is Trump good? Is Trump bad? Is Trump neutral? Tu je. There's no usually lah. Kalau mudah cerita, straightforward classification. Is it good comment? Is it bad comment? Is it neutral comment? No direction. So that's what you're doing basically. So basically, this is what call it qualitative lah. So you read the demo, the letters, newspaper. You have to make your own judgment lah. Because sometimes it's not clear cut. Sometimes the comments, the postings are not clear cut. Is this supporting Trump or this neutral or what is this? Sometimes it's not very clear. So sometimes it is looks like neutral, but it's not neutral. So it depends on you lah, how you interpret. So that's why I call it qualitative. The other one is audiovisual lah. Audiovisual. Like I said just now, it could be YouTube, could be only sound, could be only photos, could be films, documentaries, kan? So based on the YouTube videos, what do you think about party politic A? What it's the politics the party of A or B, whatever lah. So you make your own judgment based on the YouTube videos lah. So that's why I said this can be tricky. Can be very tricky. Based from my own experience. It's very tricky for you to convince the editorial, the editor, that your idea is supportive. Whether your idea makes sense ke tak make sense. So that is the most difficult part in terms of qualitative, is that to convince the editor. In my case, the editorial. In your case, your examiner and your supervisor. How to argue, how to convince them your idea is the idea makes sense lah. As long as it makes sense, okay lah. Kalau tak make sense, it takkan okay. It won't be okay lah. So it depends on talking about qualitative ni. Talking about what makes sense, what makes sense, what does not make sense. Okay, for example, YouTube videos, for example, kan? YouTube videos. How do you know that this YouTube is genuine? Is it possible that the YouTube videos are fake? is it possible that YouTube videos they edit certain parts and then they only show the parts that they want you to hear? Possible juga. So how are you going to counter? How are you going to cross check whether this YouTube video is genuine or not genuine? So this is the part where you have to argue in your thesis lah. In my case, my article lah. It's not easy. That's why I said from my own experience writing qualitative approach, qualitative methods ni is could be challenging lah, more challenging than quantitative lah. At least from my own experience lah, I find it more challenging. I find qualitative more challenging than quantitative lah. Quantitative, from my opinion, slightly easier. That's from my own experience lah. The other lecturer could find different way, because I'm more exposed to statistics methods. Okay, what's my positive view? Tak cukup masa ni. So I said I have to go fast. And purpose interview basically, as you know, is collect data. Okay, to collect data. Either you collect your purpose of collection, that data collection is about to make sure that the knowledge is true or false or fake or half true, half fake, and most likely you want to understand or try to understand what are the perspective and subjects lah. So that's the purpose interview. So that's why if you just want to confirm whether the person support A or B, interview does not make sense. If you first want to know whether the person support A or person support B, and you have the reason, then you already have your reason why, you know the reason why people support A and why people support B, then there's no reason for you to do interview. You just send the survey is better than interview. So basically interview, you want to know, is there any other more basically you want to, is there any further details basically ada lagi tak, is there anything I miss out from that knowledge lah. So we want to construct knowledge or maybe you want to attempt to understand from the perspective of subjects lah. So when we try to attempt to understand it, that's become interpretation. That's become interpretation. So your interpretation, that's where your your editorial or your examiner or your supervisor will question you whether your interpretation is correct or not lah. That means you have to argue and support. When you say my informant say this, which means what? So the meaning tu yang penting. The meaning of the information is more important. Type interview, unstructured. So basically combination of both lah. So roughly I'll tell you what are the ideas. Structured question meaning structured meaning open end question. Usually why or tell me more. Usually question will be tell me more about this. Itu biasa normally begitu lah. That's how you do interview lah. Tell me more about this one. So when your informant say something else, then you probe more. You ask, let's say the informant say that let's say talking about bully lah, online bully ke. So siapa yang bagus who are the best basically kalau you want to see unstructured question, you look at people like yang famous lah macam Oprah, Oprah like famous one, maybe like I'm talking about English speaking countries, Oprah, maybe like Parkinson, that one also good, Parkinson. There are a few more talk show lah, good one talk show. The ones that I used to see, Oprah maybe a bit overrated. Maybe Parkinson could be good. You can Google lah Parkinson. Just like the Parkinson disease lah, nama dia Parkinson. You can also David Letterman, boleh ke? David Letterman, but David Letterman is very short interview. The long ones is like Parkinson, Oprah. In local context, local context interviews, the one that I saw quite good interview lah. When I say good means what for my assessment. When I say good, I usually base from the theory lah. Good means that dia akan exploring new idea lah. In local context, when I say good, or international context, same thing. When I say good interview, meaning exploring a new idea, meaning when the informant say something, a good interviewer should ask more question about the subject matter. Local context apa yang other ones I see, maybe the old ones. I'm not sure you all know this guy. Bernama TV. That guy is quite good. Like Sha'auzi Jirim is quite good. I'm talking about Malaysia context. Sha'auzi Jirim is quite good. Actually, Pak Nin also good interviewer. I would say he is. If you look at his early show, talk show, for me, Pak Nin is quite Azian Madun. He's quite good interviewer, in my opinion. Because the way he's probing questions quite good. The other podcast that I watch quite good juga. In terms of how you pose the question, the way I assess good interviewer, not good interviewer, is how they pose question. Sorry?
Translate Johan Jaafar is okay lah kat sini.
Johan Jaafar, I tak pernah dengar sangat. But recently, kalau talking about recently, I think if you heard Financial Faiz, quite good juga. I like his way of talking. If you're familiar with Financial Faiz, pandai juga. Although he's not a prominent academician, the way he ask question tu bagus. Because when his informant say something, they try to dig deeper. The only problem with kind of this unstructured question ni, the only problem time. A lot of time. This where people cannot do. The interviewee pun tak ada masa, not have much time to entertain you, and you also sometimes get lost when you listen to them. So that's why I said sometimes you think again when you turn to your interviewee. I mean, to want to collect data, think again. Can I get this interviewer? Can I get this information from podcast, from YouTube, or Facebook? If I can get, maybe that's better rather than you go on your own lah. Because sometimes, like I said, unless we have another question, the same person, you approach that guy, whatever that guy lah. But you're talking about Mufti, forget it lah. Mufti ke politicians, forget it. They will not entertain you lah. Very difficult lah. They have a lot of things to do. Especially for students lah. Forget that. But if you're talking about highly influential, people position, prime ministers, ministers, politicians, high-ranking politicians, sometimes don't have to rely. You don't have, you do your own interview. You can rely on YouTube lah. But for example, but be careful again. When I say this one, talking about my own experience. I'm trying to convince. I hope my paper will get published now. I try to convince the editorial that I'm using YouTube video as my sources of data. I've got at least these are the common issue lah. Comment by the editorial. How do you know that? How do you know that the data is genuine? How do you know data is genuine? So I can rebut. I can answer that question. It's not that difficult. My reply will be simple. The purpose of the study is not to make sure the data is correct or not, the genuine is not. The purpose of the research is to show what people are thinking about. I was doing some study about. I'm trying to publish material. As I can review to you right now. I'm trying to publish a material. As you know, for Malaysians, last year, global F1. Do you know global F1? It's a big issue. So I'm trying to collect some information about global F1. I'm trying to publish this kind of issue So the because it's not easy to get access to the global F1 members or followers, Arkam followers, members. It's not easy. Even if it'll be difficult for you to keep track who they are. Even if you can keep track, I don't think they will talk to you and they're willing to talk to you. So the ones that are willing to talk is the one who appear in podcast, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever. So the first question that the editorial asked me through email, how do you know that the data is genuine? So it's quite of course it's not easy for you to ask to provide evidence the data is genuine or not. It's not easy. But what can I say is that I can because there's no way I can answer back the response. But I can write it back. It's not that difficult whether they want to accept or not. So the purpose of my study is about to show, to convey the message to the audience what the followers are thinking. What the followers are thinking at that time compared to now when they were in that Jama'ah, what they were thinking, and now when they're out of the Jama'ah, what they were thinking. So I'm trying to figure out how to convey the message to the public. But that's one barrier the gatekeeper I'm calling the gatekeeper the gatekeeper is the editorial So how the answer, how can you convince So I can convince them. Hopefully they will agree with me At least at this point what I can say is that I cannot confirm whether they're telling lies or telling the truth But what I can confirm is that the case is in the police. The case in the hand of the police now. They're being investigated There are most likely the cases they have prima facie in that case That means there is some strong evidence and so that's how I can say it's not my job to prove whether they're telling the truth or not I can also argue that sometimes a lot of data you can get, you can have some doubt have some doubt. For example, if you're collecting, once you have done a survey, then you know what's the. It's not easy